Welcome to the Reality Revolution. Today we're going to read another amazing Quo channeling. This one is very recent, delivered on February 24th, 2024, and it addresses topics such as Armageddon and polarization, mythology and spiritual growth, Earth's chakras and densities, the sinkhole of indifference, honest communication in the green ray and blue ray energy centers. Quo is a principle of highly advanced civilizations that communicate and channel through a group called LL Research that answers questions of a spiritual nature. These channelings are amazing. They come from a place of pure love, and it is wonderful to read these words. We begin with Jim channeling. I am Quo, and am with this instrument. And we greet each at this time in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator that is within each entity in this circle and all entities upon your planet and within the universe. And we are honored to be able to join this group that is aware of this basic premise of the creator of all things being all things everywhere at all times. This afternoon we are honored as well to be able to entertain and attempt to answer queries which you have as conscious spiritual seekers of truth. We hope to be able to give answers that illuminate your journey, comfort the aching heart, inspire the intellectual mind, and rejuvenate the physical body. We are always asking you to take what we have to say with what you might call the grain of salt, so that you may determine the value of our words and use those in your spiritual path as food for growth. And those words that have no value at this time, then just set them aside. This gives us the ability to speak with greater variety and intensity, so that we give you what you hope for and you can use in your spiritual journey. And we do not provide what you may call the diversion or the block of granite to block your journey. At this time, we would ask if there is a query with which we may begin. Question: I have a query regarding the connection, or is manifestation the same as intelligent infinity? I am Quo, and am aware of your query, my sister. The manifestation that you have asked about in the possible relationship with intelligent infinity is indeed an equality, for intelligent infinity, which you may see as the one infinite creator, has made all that there is within the infinite universe. This is a manifestation of love, which the infinite creator has created all things out of through the power of love to manifest through light, which becomes the love light of the creation, the product, the creation of what seems to be solidity and infinity at the same time. The solidity is an illusion, most especially within your third density. But within all densities of the creation, or within each thing as you would call objects or manifestations, there is activity that could be described as the molecules of light that move back and forth, round and round in different speeds and angles of rotation, that give the manifestation of solidity, of an objective reality, which entities such as yourself may be able to utilize within various levels of vibration in the great octave of creation. Thus, the creator of intelligent infinity has made this octave a creation as a pathway back into unity of each portion or manifested being within the one infinite creator. Thus, this simple equation of intelligent infinity equaling manifestation has great ramifications on all levels of being for all beings everywhere as they move through their incarnated patterns time after time after time through the various levels of the octave of being, so that the creator may know itself with each incarnation, with each choice, with each thought, with each level of being. Is there a further query, my sister? No at this time. Thank you. I am Quo, and we thank you. Is there another query at this time? Yes, Quo. Oh, there is a good discussion that came out of our study group about the Raw Contact Session 24. Specifically 24-6. My question is about Armageddon. In this passage, the reference was to Yahweh, known as He Comes, which began to send positively oriented philosophy 3,300 years ago, approximately, and Ra said, thus the intense portion of what became known as Armageddon was joined. Could you say a little bit more about Armageddon? I am Quo, and am aware of your query, my brother. The Armageddon that is referred to in that particular quote could be seen as the battle that is being waged at this time upon the inner planes of your planet by various fourth density entities who feel the need to engage in such a battle in order that there might be the possibility of the reconciliation of those entities of a negative nature who feel it is necessary to attempt to bring about the polarization of the people of your planet by whatever means necessary in order to add to their empire. This is one of the possibilities of the Armageddon of which those of Ra spoke. It is that result of the one known as Yahweh who made a transfer of entities to the planetary sphere at the beginning of its master cycle and utilized various means of cloning to help them discover more of the ways of love upon this planetary sphere. However, it was considered an abrogation of free will so that these entities would not be able to work within their own personalities, shall we call them, of the mind-body-spirit complex, and travel this path of polarization in the ways of love upon their own choices. Thus, the one known as Yahweh was able to find another means by which to describe itself, as he comes because of its own name of Yahweh had been abrogated by the negative entities and then utilized to become the chosen, shall we say, God of the entities from Mars, and they would then become the chosen people of the ones of Yahweh. This is the primary meaning of the Battle of Armageddon, which has the positive benefit of reducing the possibility of what you call your warfare by the utilization of nuclear energy. We would also suggest that the Battle of Armageddon is a battle which each person upon this planetary sphere engages in on a daily basis when they see the seeming separation between entities of the third density as being the reality that must be dealt with in a manner which is divisive, filled with anger, and the possibility of warfare which is so rampant upon your planet at this time. It has been for thousands of years. This is a battle that can only be won by those who become conscious seekers of truth and who see within themselves the seeming separation covered by the total unification of all things and all people existing within the infinite creator. As the infinite creator exists within them, it is the great hope at the confederation of planets in the service of the infinite creator that more and more people upon your planetary sphere can become aware of this battle within themselves and reflected in the world around them. For as what heals the self, what heals the world around one, more and more of your entities need to be able to heal the self, that together they might heal the battle scars of the population of Earth and of Earth herself. For she has been the victim of these battles for thousands and thousands of years and needs your assistance and attendance to the need to see within the illusion of separation and find the unification of all. Is there a further query, my brother? Thank you. So is it correct to say that Armageddon continues today, and that a battle such as the one you've described can be conducted not out of divisiveness and anger, but out of love? Is that my understanding? I am Quo, and am aware of your query, my brother. Yes, indeed, this is the message that we bring, that all adversity, all battle or war, all seeming division can be unified by the power of love of the one infinite creator that flows through each heart in this planetary sphere, if each heart is aware that this is possible and asked for such to occur. This is something that must be desired. It must become part of the spiritual path. It must be that which is reflected in each action of each being at all times, if possible. Is there a further query, my brother? Not right now, thank you, Quo. I am Quo, and we thank you, my brother. At this time, we shall transfer this contact to the one known as Austin. We are those of Quo. Austin channeling. I am Quo, and am now with this instrument. We offer our gratitude to this circle through this instrument again for inviting us to join you in your circle of seeking, where it is in answering this invitation and joining you and attempting to be of assistance that we ourselves are able to continue upon our own journey of realizing our nature as the one infinite creator. And in joining you, we not only feel a sense of camaraderie and gain insight into the nature of the creator, but ourselves move further along on this infinite journey that we are all upon. At this time, we would ask if there is a query to which we may respond. Gary, quote, in the past channelings through the one known as Carla, the dance of polarity on this planet as third density was coming to a close was framed in the metaphor of a dragon. The negative polarity was said to be something of a dragon that was fiercely lashing its tail while it still could, and that if memory serves, the tail would soon come to a rest and so forth. I'm wondering if the situation on the world stage now, where it seems there is an increase in the energies of authoritarianism and a decrease in democratic principles and institutions and norms, if that perspective is a manifestation of the lashing tail, so to speak, and what spiritual principles we may use in relating to this situation. I am, quote, and am aware of the query, my brother. Indeed, as we spoke these words through the one known as Carla, we were utilizing a very deep-seated type of mythology, familiar with that instrument and with what we understand as the primary audience of that instrument at the time, this being the imagery of the mythological dragon. The mythology, as we perceive it in the deep mind of your peoples, relies upon a story of heroism that the individual seeker within your density identifies within. What has been called by your peoples in some corners of mythological study the hero's journey, and the type of symbolism contained within these stories speak to deep aspects of your archetypical mind, and thus the utilization of this imagery, as it is specific to your particular cultural mind, does contain deeper aspects that may appear on the surface. And we can confirm that in your query, identifying those manifestations of particular types of energy being manifested upon the so-called world stage of your planet do indeed speak to these energies that have been identified in a mythological sense by the dragon. You can seek deeper into this symbolism and metaphor by examining a type of mythology that has become somewhat antiquated in your modern day, but remains quite poignant in your modern storytelling. For in the past, there was a much simpler story of the valiant knight, the valiant hero set upon a valiant quest of righteousness to do good and to liberate a people or a person or resources from a great beast that hoarded those things and terrorized those things out of selfishness. This framing is what we would call quite distorted in how it examines the path of the seeker in third density, but is a poignant one that reveals much about your particular planet, and how even those positive seekers who wish to do good in the world, you may say, find themselves embroiled in aspects of violence and attempting to discover the great treasure that awaits the seeker in more material successes. There is a correlation in how this ancient myth has played out upon your stage, and how you can view the what you might call death throes of the dragon as gripping even more tightly to that which it wishes to control, which is not just the physical, material resources of your planet in order to maintain control over peoples, but also what you can call a psychological and even spiritual control over your peoples, in the sense of instilling certain values of separation and fear and elitism. These things can be seen as various arms or appendages of the mythological dragon, attempting to keep the seeker, who in the ancient myth is the hero, upon the journey from liberating these things and giving them to the people of the world. The deeper aspect of this myth that we feel was unrealized at times in your past, but is more alive in groups of spiritual seekers such as this group, is the realization that the treasure being guarded by this dragon is indeed not literal material treasure. Just as the literal material resources of your world are secondary to that treasure that can be found within the self. If one is able to recognize that this dragon and its appearance as an external force is first grappled with within the self, that in journeying through the inner caves of one's own mind into deeper and deeper subconscious levels, one may face many difficult aspects of the self that can be seen to be vicious and can be externalized as those things in your world that you do harm and cause fear and express selfishness and greed. For all of those things live also within the self. And as the hero's journey is deeper within the self, being able to release one's fear and aversion to these things and integrate them, one may discover that treasure that lays deep within, and that treasure being the true nature of the love and the light of the one infinite creator that exists within each person and each seeker, and is available to all if one simply is able to recognize the reflective nature of that which exists outside of the self as being an aspect of the self that cannot be rejected, cannot be abhorred, but instead is all part of the one infinite creator that you are. And to realize this fundamental treasure is to realize your true nature as one with all and the one infinite creator. Is there a further query, my brother? No, thank you, Quo. I am Quo, and we thank you, my brother. Is there another query to which we may respond? Just in follow-up, I love the idea of the dragon being that force within us that we need to burn, or that needs to burn through in order for us to find, and going deep into our caves and in order to find our jewel. I've always thought dragons were kind of misunderstood, really, but my question is, the hero's journey, is it an equivalent to the lifting of the veil? I am Quo, and I'm aware of the query, my sister. We can say that there is some correlation between the realization of the hero's journey as it is understood by your peoples, particularly certain individuals who have made a study of mythology across cultures to realize that there is a universal and archetypical aspect to this so-called journey that each self takes. These archetypical aspects have played out and then expressed through story and through mythology across cultures and across ages. And those seekers within your culture who have made a study of these things have realized that these mythologies do speak to a truth that is even greater than that which is found in the world around you. For what you see about you is indeed what we call an illusion. And the ability of storytellers and those who weave mythologies and consistently discover the same patterns through the storytelling are indeed piercing an aspect of the veil and revealing to the self something that lies underneath. We would clarify that this thing that is being perceived is more akin to a clearer vision of the archetypical mind as developed by your sublogos. Indeed, this sublogos created a set of conditions for the self that includes the veiling that you experience within the third density. And when the weavers of myth and storytellers tap into this, they reveal these various patterns that can be realized by the self in one's own life, in one's own mind, and in one's own energy patterns. And these things become a tool by which the self can gain self-realization, gain a better understanding of the self within the illusion, and a better understanding of the illusion itself, so that eventually it is seen for what it is, and the veil is lifted. And so while this hero's journey is a piercing of the veil, it is ultimately itself another illusory aspect that can be pulled away. And if it is utilized properly, it is no longer needed. For the ultimate truth that is revealing is seen as being all-encompassing in all stages of that journey, its beginning and its end. And the hero's journey is realized to be one singular whole thing, which is often represented in this concept of the hero's journey by the circle or the circular nature of this journey, where the seeker arrives at the same place from where it departed. And this is a key aspect of the so-called process, that you never truly left your home from the one infinite creator, and your journey through this illusion is built in order for that creator to experience this journey for itself. Is there a further query, my sister? No, thank you, that's wonderful. I am Quo, and we thank you, my sister. At this time, we transfer the contact to the one known as Gary. We are Quo. Gary channeling. We are those of the principle known to you as Quo, ready once again to receive your query and offer what we may in response, perhaps not a solution or a resolution, but that which may consider in order to stimulate your own innate capacity to untangle your knots and discover those clues and that insight that is waiting for you within the catalyst that troubles you. Is there a query to which we may respond? We are those of Quo. Yes, Quo. Throughout the readings related to the Law of One, much attention is paid to the chakras within a human being, the crystallizing and balancing of these energy centers. I'm just wondering, since I'm increasingly conscious that the earth has its own, it's a living being and has its own consciousness, does the earth have chakras? And if so, what are they? We are those of Quo and have received this query, my brother. And indeed, that sphere upon which your feet travel and which offers you the possibility of existence in a physical body with the nourishment of energy source, the air which is cycled into the respiratory system moment by moment, is indeed a being. It is not merely a collection of seemingly inert matter layered onto which is the advent of biological life, as it were a room within a house or a house itself. It is an entity which itself has offered itself for service and is upon a journey in its own right, not independent of those entities within its domain, but synergistically with, as co-journeyers, co-creators, each a part of the other in very deep ways. As the third density consciousness arises out of the body of the planet and becomes something of the planetary being's means of experiencing itself, its eyes, its ears, its sensory organs, and nerve endings, which is particularly poignant and pronounced in the third density being, which may consciously reflect upon itself and its world, much to the diminishment of your peoples and their experience. This is generally not recognized, whether due to that which is known to you as the materialistic, scientific mindset, or that religious mindset which devalues the world around one in the focus on the transcendent, on that which is beyond, on that plane which is after, or on that plane which is following this one, seeing perhaps that this is as a realm that is merely a resource to be controlled with dominion and so forth. You may indeed see something of various planes or nexi of consciousness of the planet itself as she evolves through the various stages which are manifest to you as densities, beginning with, of course, the emerging out of timelessness and chaos into a more ordered, structured, and manifest experience of the first density. The planet at this stage has in potentiation the possibility of experiences of higher levels of consciousness manifested in the densities from second, third, and upward. But at this stage, its consciousness, as in the development of any being which contains within it a blueprint of ascending chakras and ascending levels and densities, is focused upon and limited by its experience within the first density as earth, wind, water, and fire interact over eons of time. Difficult for you to grasp. In the teaching of one another and the laying of the foundation from which greater awareness may emerge. Until after great spans, graduation is ready and the planet and its constituent beings or manifestations of its consciousness upon the surface may move forward into the beginning of that which is known to you as biological life. This is the capacity of an entity, even on the simplest levels, to move, to adapt to its environment, to develop goals and objectives and abilities for problem solving that starts very simply and becomes more and more complex as the light within that simple entity spirals upward into new and higher levels of understanding. Thus, a second density planet moves upward in its own journey and undergoes what you experience of time is a significant portion in the billions of years of evolution of building a world of plants and trees and countless variety of flora and fauna in your seas, in your skies, each contributing a new aspect of understanding to the planet, each adding a layer onto which those who come after will continue to build, each forming a complex web of life in a holistic journey of myriad seemingly separate parts working together in competition or collision or care to create a vibrant, rich world seemingly complete unto itself. The planet shares in this experience at the second density level, before the emergence of the self-conscious being, which has activated its spirit complex. Thus, you may see the planet or any planet as consisting of 7 planets, each upon its own level, each a growing dynamic being, which learns as it goes along through experience, through interaction, eventually increasing that learning until it is ready to cross a threshold onto the next stage, and so on, and so on. Is there another query, my brother? We are those a quote. So it sounds like the earth doesn't have chakras as we think of it as in our bodies, but you're likening them to the densities, the 7 densities. So this brings up a question we talked about earlier. Are the chakras a microcosm of the 7 densities? We are those of quo, and in consideration of this question, we would offer that there are indeed correlation between the chakras and the densities. Not always the equivalency, but from the third density perspective, each chakra contains the lessons, experiences, and learnings of each density. But the third density entity layers onto that a much greater complexity that is not only the experience of the densities past, but is more. And the third density entity has the possibility of activating the higher chakras to a degree without strict necessity to traverse through the upper densities, even to the point that the third density entity may use the third density experience as a launch pad to move beyond and upward. Extremely rare though this situation is. But the experience of any given density and its correspondingly numbered chakra do contain much of the other in each other and do have a sequence which unfolds together. We are those of Quo. Is there a follow-up to this query? No, thank you, Quo. That was great, thank you. We thank you, my brother. Is there another query to which we may speak before transferring this contact? We are those of Quo. I have a question. On January 4th of 2020, Quo spoke on the sinkhole of indifference. I think I got a little lost on the response and don't quite understand what this sinkhole of indifference is or how to avoid it. Am I considered to be in the sinkhole by not involving myself or having set opinion on controversial topics or being wrapped in the news? Or does the sinkhole of indifference lean more towards the spiritual matters? Hopefully that makes sense. In short, I'm just asking for clarity. We are those of Quo and appreciate your query, my sister. And indeed, your question makes complete sense. We are able to understand and consider not just in the window of having the honor of addressing your query, but in our larger journey of understanding the challenges that your peoples face in our own desire to be of maximum support and service, and the perennial challenge we have in doing so, in significant part thanks to this condition which we have described as the sinkhole of indifference. This sinkhole is not necessarily a condition of any particular action, as your query has explored, but rather connects to the greater situation of polarity upon your planet. As you may understand, the purpose of the particular level of consciousness evolution, which you presently enjoy, is to facilitate the ability of the third density entity to make a choice, that is, to bias its consciousness in one direction or another, which we have called service to self or service to other. To make this choice not once or not in a single moment, but to pursue then this choice to build a charge in either direction, to continue to use one's catalyst in one of two broad ways, that being on the service to self path, to attempt to control and manipulate one's catalyst, oneself, and others about the self in order to acquire personal power for the self at the expense of others, to use deception and infringement as part of this strategy. This is a valid path of evolution. Or conversely, to love and accept one's catalyst of the day, to honor the sacredness of beauty and divinity within the self, within all things, to seek not to infringe upon, but to honor free will with a working toward the harmony of beings, to radiate freely love and light. This, as you would say, in a nutshell, is the function of this particular density, to facilitate a choice in one of these two directions. However, those upon your planet, in the majority, have not made this choice for themselves. They have avoided this choice, not just within the span of your planet's third density experience, but upon many previous planetary experiences where they did not use their catalyst to polarize their consciousness. Thus, not using third density, thus not graduating into the next density of consciousness evolution, that of the love and understanding of fourth density, they repeat the grade as you may see it. This chronic condition of non-polarity is that to which we refer as the sinkhole of indifference. What is the source of this avoidance of catalyst use? What is this apathy, this indifference, this intransigence? We correct this instrument, this addiction, so to speak, to distraction, sleep, and unconsciousness. This love of the dream and remaining in a state of dreaming, almost as if many upon your sphere do not wish to face the self, to begin the journey of waking up. To refrain from conflict, to not take up arms or battle, to step outside the fray in order to hold one's own peace, if not at times sanity, is not in and of itself indicative of being stuck in that gravity well of a sinkhole, my sister. It is rather how you relate to yourself, to others, how you process your catalyst. It is your intentions. It is the consciousness with which you approach your life and your journey. You are a seeker upon a path who asks of herself and her universe questions, who cultivates intentions for growth and healing in the manner most suitable to you, that you may be of service and a light to others. These, or rather this fundamental orientation, is that which has an escape velocity, shall we say, from that sinkhole. Instead, most within your world are comfortably, albeit often miserably, ensconced or magnetically stuck to this sinkhole. And this condition permeates nearly every aspect of your society. It is not seen as such. It is seen as normal, the great glittering show of your people's media and their many diversions and activities. While not wrong in and of themselves as a system, this helps to reinforce the sleeping state, shall we say, lulling those of your world into repetitive patterns that are not broken because of conscious awareness is not brought to these repeating patterns. Instead, they're blindly enacted again and again with various permutations. One significant, and for your heart's devastation, outgrowth of this is the continual cycles of bellicosity, which have ravaged your world in various ways historically and into the present. This bellicosity is also a function of the repeating patterns of your history and the repeating nature of the sinkhole. At this time, we take leave of this instrument with gratitude to you, our sister, for this query, and transfer our contact to the one known as Jim. We are those known to you as Quo. I am Quo, and with this instrument, once again, it is our time now to ask if there is a final query to which we may respond. Quo, S from the Law of One study group has a question. He says, I wonder if honest communication is present in Blu-ray, but not necessarily in green ray. The dropping of expectations maybe. Is that what differentiates green from blue? I am Quo, and I'm aware of your query, my sister. We would respond by suggesting that the difference between blue and the green ray is that the response in clear communication for the blue ray is that which is of the creator, that has been experienced more fully and frequently within the blue ray, so that it might move not only to the area of clear communication with others and with the self, but might elevate into that which you would call the inspiration of more of the knowledge and experience of the creator that lives within the entity that has activated the blue ray. In this ray there is more, shall we say, leeway or span or of experience and depth of experience and layers of experience of the creator and the way that the entity is able to live its life on a daily basis. Within the green ray, though the heart is open and expresses the love of the one creator clearly and purely, the green ray entity has a difficulty in responding in such a way with those that would question its ability to respond clearly and with inspiration. The green ray entity that attempts to respond clearly to others runs into what you may call a difficulty when the others do not seem to perceive the clarity, the honesty, the purity of the response. Thus, the green ray energies of the heart chakra become somewhat muddled when challenged by those who do not feel the clarity of the green ray expression. This is in the daily round of activities where one with the green ray open attempts to share itself with the open heart with its own perception of clarity. Thus, this type of expression finds a hurdle that he cannot clear, a challenge that he cannot meet, and yet this green ray energy is that which allows this entity to move forward into his own evolutionary path, into the fourth density of love and understanding, where the ability to communicate more clearly and inspirationally will be expanded upon as the heart opens ever wider to the creation about it and sees the creator everywhere. Is there a further query, my sister? No, that was perfect, Quo. Thank you. I am Quo, and we thank you, my sister. We also thank each entity gathered today around this circle of seeking, for the seeking that you have expressed through your queries and through your listening hearts is that which enhances each journey of seeking the truth. For in truth we are all one. Whatever problem one has can be ameliorated in some degree by the realization that one's experience with itself and with others is an experience of the Creator, with the Creator that speaks with many voices and many experiences for all who have this awareness that we find within the circle today. We are those of Quo, and at this time we shall take our leave of this instrument and this group, thanking each again for your fastidiousness in seeking and the hearts open in love. We are known to you as those of Quo. We bid you Adonai Vasu Boragas. So we get a very interesting discussion in this channeling of Armageddon, relating back to the story that's indicated in the Law of One of Yahweh and those of Mars. Mars was destroyed by a nuclear war, and a group of people from Mars, their souls were taken to Earth, and as it's explained here, they cloned human bodies and then placed their souls in those human bodies. I still don't understand that entirely, but that's what happened. And so there are certain groups of people here that came from Mars, and Yahweh had an influence on them at the time. There has been, for thousands of years, a battle of polarities, a group that serves the self that hopes to manipulate us in every way, shape, and form, and those that seek to serve others. We see this battle playing out all the time, on a small scale, in your neighborhood with your friends and family, on a large scale in the countries and in the world. And I'm sure it's happening on a galactic scale. There's this dichotomy, this duality that's happening between these two expressions of love of self and love of other. And our experience within this duality is eye-opening. It has levels to it. There is so much more to it than we are aware of. I believe I played a part of this Armageddon, and I'm sure that you have too. But I send you my love in this moment, wherever you're at, whoever you are, and whatever path you're on. And I see you as one with me, and I recognize you for who you truly are, and that is the Creator. I thought the chakra question was interesting about Earth. Junvalo Melchizedek seemed to indicate that the Earth does have specific chakra points, but I think clearly they're indicating the Earth is a living being, and that it goes through the densities and they're similar to chakras. I love to consider that planets and suns and moons and everything are living beings at different levels of consciousness. And we're all an expression of this Earth consciousness. We're intricately tied to it. I find that very interesting, and it resonates with me deeply. You can find all episodes of The Reality Revolution at therealityrevolution.com. And welcome to The Reality Revolution.